Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 23rd, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. Check out this initial system moving through northern Canada. It's going to kick up some winds off to the east, but the major pattern change is back here. Strong frontal system will drive down across the Gulf of Alaska, southeast Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon as we go on in through early next week, ushering in that cold air mass, big mountain snows, even potential for some lower elevation snowfall. Then we'll take a look at the extended forecast as always as we go through the video here today. It's looking at the visible satellite imagery. You can see the fog bouncing around the Puget Sound here. It's burning off slowly but surely here. It's actually sunny at my house here, but many of the locations across western Washington are kind of socked in. But if you're on the coastline here, Washington, Oregon, nice and clear. Willamette Valley, eastern Washington, Oregon, nice sunny skies out there as well. And you can see there's Mount Rainier on the GOES 18. You can see our snow-capped mountains with some high clouds drifting over the top. Looking at the snow returning here, this is an impactful storm for really all the Pacific Northwest, including Idaho and Montana. Some gusts up to 70 miles per hour are possible. Big mountain snows, even some snow for the valleys here. And we're going to bring those snow levels down to the valley floors on Monday. And check this out. Snow squalls Monday morning, whiteout conditions, rapid freeze up on the roadways here. Highly impactful storm incoming as we go on in through early next week. We got the high wind warnings for this initial system moving to the north here. We got high wind watches for the next one, and we got winter storm watches going up all over the place as well. Now, looking at the gusty winds Sunday night, check out Spokane and Ritzville and watch out because this could be kind of a crosswind across Highway 2 and I-90 if you are driving a high-profile vehicle or one of the big rigs out there also. And you can see we're going to have some strong winds across the area and especially across the Cascades out of the west and southwest. Now, mountain pass travel impacts. Really expect high impacts pretty much everywhere as you go through the day Monday. And eventually it's going to work its way down across the Washington Cascades towards the Oregon Cascades also. And then we're going to continue these moderate impacts as we go through the early to mid portion of this week upcoming. Winter storm watch for eastern Oregon. And this is for a lot of the higher terrain, 8 to 24 inches. Winds gusting as high as 45, probably even higher than that across the exposed ridges up there. But the valleys are going to get lesser amounts. You're talking 0 to 2 for the lower valleys out there. But the higher terrain is going to do pretty well, and it's going to be pretty windy, pretty dynamic system overall rolling into the region here. Now, wider look at things here, you can see this initial polar lobe kicking up the winds across Montana. Then this one just takes aim at the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to drop the snow levels and really start to build up the mountain snow as we go on in through the day Tuesday. We've got convergent zone potential. We've got some convection, maybe some lower elevation snowfall that are going to be ongoing here as we go through the daytime on Monday. And then we don't waste much time because we get things pretty active here across the Gulf of Alaska as we scroll through the mid and later portion of this week coming up. We have windstorm potential at that as well. More on that here in a moment. If we take a look at this initial storm system swinging by, you can see the powerful pressure gradients casting across some of the Rocky Mountains there of Montana. So that's why the high wind warnings are up today and tomorrow. Then we start to get the pressure falls here across British Columbia, Alberta, as the Arctic high makes its way to the south. Look at this 984 millibar monster out here across Alberta. Really going to be kicking up some crazy winds and big mountain snows. The Pacific Ocean snow machine is going to be going full blast right back into the Cascades, British Columbia, Washington, down through Oregon as well. And we scroll up into the future here. I might as well just show you this now. We have an interesting scenario showing up for windstorm potential as well. Look at this monster low just kind of develop almost out of nothing right off the coastline. This late breaking wave. This thing is deepening as it makes its way inland. Look at this 973 millibar monster. We have a strong pressure gradient associated with it. Still off in fantasy land right now. We need a few more days to kind of fine tune details on that. But the model's been consistent in showing that powerful low driving into British Columbia here. First things first, let's go 850 millibars, 5,000 feet. Got BC, Washington, Oregon here. There's Alaska. So if we put this into motion, you'll see that cold air start to come off the coast of Alaska here, move across the Pacific Ocean, make its way back into the Pacific Northwest, and that's when the snow machine's really going to be cranking here as we go through Sunday on through Monday morning. Cold Arctic air sagging south across British Columbia. Good model agreement between the GFS on the right and the European here on the left. So now let's take a look at 925 millibars, 2,500 feet. I want to show you the lower levels of the atmosphere here. So here's Alaska, and there's Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia here. If we put this into motion, I want you to watch this air coming off the coast of Alaska there. It comes over the Pacific Ocean, picks up that moisture, and slams it back into the Pacific Northwest. I'm showing temperature here, but that Pacific Ocean is relatively warm, and that air is going to rise, cool, and condense, and add moisture to the atmosphere there. And that's what brings on the Pacific Ocean snow machine back into moving to our mountains. So I did this diagram this morning. You can see the Pacific Ocean relatively warm when you talk about that cold air coming off the continent there up across Alaska. That warm, moist air rises into cold air, condenses into clouds, and the air is even further lifted when it runs into the Cascades of Washington or Oregon or higher terrain into British Columbia as well, and just drops incredible amounts of snowfall here. So that is the Pacific Ocean snow machine there for you. Now, taking a look at the European, the 12Z run. I waited for the European 12Z model here so I could show you this data here. That's why the video is coming out a little bit late. But as we go through tomorrow morning, you see some of this precip kicking up across British Columbia with the onshore flow ongoing with that polar lobe moving to our north. It does kick off some precipitation here, but the main frontal system is still coming in here as we go through the day Sunday. You see the precipitation increasing across western BC and really start to pour into the Cascades here as we go through the day Sunday. Going to get some convergence zone activity through Sunday night all the way in and through the day Monday here. Check it around. It's just bouncing back and forth here as this colder air filters into the area. We could have some lower snow levels showing up. We could even have some convection, maybe even if we get lucky, some thunder snow or some thunder snow pellets as convergence zone activity continues all the way on in through Monday night to Tuesday morning. And then we get another system rolling in here as we go on into Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then if we look in the extended, there's an interesting solution been showing up in the models with a very powerful low pressure center. Look at that 978, 974 millibar beast deepening as it makes landfall. That would be a pretty windy solution here for many of the areas in the Pacific Northwest. Still fantasy right now, but I'm watching that one closely here for the last couple of days. Now, this is looking at the European versus itself yesterday afternoon. So interesting stuff here. We see the pressure falls when that Arctic high starts to sag across British Columbia, convergence zone activity, big mountain snows, big winds across the area. And then we took a look off into the extended forecast there, and you can see that low pressure there. This is this morning's run here. So this is yesterday afternoon. So you can see they both have that low pressure system developing here, kind of a late breaking low pressure system here. And those ones can be kind of dangerous. They can come in pretty hot and heavy. And you can see this one's deepening as it makes landfall as well. Differences in timing. And look at that 973 millibar monster over the interior BC. But this one is quite strong as well. So you can see there is something to it. The European is picking up on the system out there. We'll be nailing down those details as we go over the first days, but over the next few days. But first things first. Looking at lightning flash density potential, this one is off the European that's hot off the presses as well. We're going to scroll all the way in towards Monday as the time frame we're looking at here. So as we go through the day Monday, we're going to see some of this potential start to bubble up across some of mainly western Washington here as we get these convergence zone bands. Can't rule out a thunderstorm across the Washington or Oregon coast, also down through the Willamette Valley as we go through the day Monday. But look at that. You can kind of see the convergence zone activity maybe kicking off a lightning strike or two. That could include eastern Washington as well, some of BC, even eastern Oregon or Idaho as we get these strong convergent bands with that onshore flow and very cold air aloft. Now, this is looking at total snow in inches. This is what everybody wants to know about here in National Blend of Models. As we go through Saturday morning, you see some of that snow already flying across some of the North Cascades and British Columbia here, but the main frontal system comes in as we start going through Sunday morning. Look at the snow start to pile up here across the higher terrain, just some ridiculous amounts, and we have the potential for it across the higher terrain of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, BC, Olympic Mountains picking up a nice shot. Look at some of the coastal range of Oregon, even picking up over 6 inches locally there. Blue Mountains, Rocky Mountains, nice winter storm for the higher terrain for everybody. And you can see it does show a little bit of lower elevation snowfall starting to try to tease out here in the beginning of the week, but it's not much. I mean, however, if a convergence zone sets up over any given area, you could get locally higher amounts. And even an inch seems like a lot of snowfall once it's actually going on, especially when it's coming hot and heavy. And it might be mixed with snow pellets and convective activity and maybe a little bit of thunder snow out there as well for some lucky area. Now, taking a look at Whistler, you can see this initial shot here, and then we continue things active as we go towards the end of the week also. So we have more snow potential as we go towards the end of the week. This is Mount Baker. Check this out. The mean and the actual deterministic are showing up over a foot, maybe a foot and a half for some areas up towards Mount Baker here. And again, more snow potentially coming later next week. Stevens Pass as well. You're probably looking at a foot plus here for Stevens Pass in a 24-hour period with windy conditions. It's going to be quite wild out there with more snow possible in the future. And look at some of these winds here showing up over 40 miles per hour. Some of the ensembles showing 50 plus. It's going to be almost like blizzard conditions out there for some times across the higher terrain of BC, Washington, and Oregon at times. Snoqualmie Pass, you could be looking at a foot of snowfall in a 24-hour period here as well, starting to get a little bit better confidence on those details. Snoqualmie Pass is one of the lower pass elevations around here, checking in right around 3,000 feet, but more snow potentially as we go later this week. This is Mount Hood. Again, a nice round here, maybe 10 plus inches coming in a 24 24-hour period, with more potentially on in through next week as well. Crater Lake, a little bit less the further south you go, but still a nice shot of snowfall, maybe around 5 inches or so. Now, we've got winter storm watches up for the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. So what they're talking about is heavy snow possible above 1,500 feet, total snow 12 to 30 inches. Winds could gust as high as 45 and probably higher across the higher exposed terrain as well. And this goes from late Saturday night through Monday afternoon. It's going to be very difficult travel going across Highway 212 and I-90 as we go on in through the day, Sunday, Monday, and then into Tuesday morning. You can see the winter storm watches are in effect for much of Oregon also. And they're talking about heavy snow above 2,000 feet, total snow 5 to 12, except 10 to 19 inches above 2,500 feet possible for places like Mount Hood. Winds could gust as high as 50 miles per hour. And again, Sunday afternoon through Monday afternoon, a little bit later developing as the frontal system moves from north to south across Washington down towards Oregon. So here's Whidbey Island, strong westerly surge coming down, probably some gusts up towards 50 miles per hour, then maybe a windstorm in our future here. We're trying to figure that out here, and more on that here in the upcoming days for sure. But if we look across some of the higher terrain of the Cascades, look at some of these winds gusting up towards 60 plus here. And then again, wind potential will continue to exist through the end of the week. Seattle, some of the bigger windstorms are showing up in here as well. But right now, the signal is very muted. We're looking at in the crystal ball at this point here, and we're just kind of looking at things here. It is a favorable pattern for windstorm activity, but we have a long way to go before we start ringing alarm bells here for those upcoming wind potential systems. This is Spokane. Big winds incoming here with this westerly surge, potentially gusting up towards 50 miles per hour, and again, often through the extended as well. So if we look at accumulated positive snow depth change in inches, and actually let's update this. I forgot we got the 12Z European model running here, so let's take a look at it. We scroll through here and we start to go on into Saturday morning, into Sunday. Then you can see that frontal system really start to drop its snowfall here as we go on in through Sunday night into Monday morning. So you can see we're going to add some nice snowfall here to the higher terrain. This is again accumulated positive snow depth change in inches here. And again, not showing a lot of lower elevation snowfall, but you can't rule out some small amounts, especially in some of the convergent zone activity, kind of highlighting areas maybe up into Snohomish County as well. But we could have a progressive convergent zone moving down the Puget Sound that could even have a lightning strike with it as well. And that could impact things on Monday for places like SeaTac Airport with a wind shift maybe to the northwest at times also. So check ahead if you are flying out on Monday for sure out of SeaTac. Now, looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, this goes through March 3rd, below average across the west, and 8 to 14 day. You don't need the Climate Prediction Center to tell you that when you've been looking at the weather models here for the last few days. But also, this is going to be very beneficial to the snowpack across the higher terrain of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and British Columbia, where they're not doing too hot for their snowpack. Washington isn't either. A little bit better across Oregon. You can see some amounts up towards average for a lot of areas across southern Idaho as well. But northern Idaho, Montana, Washington, and BC are not doing too hot. So this will be very beneficial over the next few days. And something else here, the North American Drought Monitor, I don't often show this here, but British Columbia and Alberta, some areas are not doing good. And this during the summertime or late spring months when fires start to get going here can really come back into Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. So we got to watch this as we go on in through the summer months upcoming here. I don't like to see that severe, extreme, and exceptional drought. The fire that went on last year, if you were paying any attention to the media at all, they had their record fire season here across portions of Canada. So hopefully something like that does not continue on in through this year, and we can really help to bring some relief to this drought here over the next few months. But anyway, lots to look at here, folks. Crazy time incoming here. Very powerful winter storm rolling in here. And then we're going to have that change to the more southwest and westerly flow with windstorm potential and precipitation totals. And those storms will actually still be bringing some nice mountain snows with them as well. So we'll continue to break this down day by day. I work one more day today, and then I may be out chasing some of this stuff here as we go through the weekend into early next week. So if I do, I will be live streaming that. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you guys are prepared for all the weather upcoming here, and we'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.